Good afternoon. Well, it's interesting times we continue to live in, and we've spent a lot of time here in the shop trying to figure out how to most realistically address this. I had planned actually to be open from 1 to 6 each day, having Cindy and Connie come in and work mornings. As the situation has progressed, I really don't think that is going to work for us. The more I hear about this and read about it, there's too many cases of people being infected by others who had no idea that they were carrying the virus. Connie and I are both in the age group that's considered vulnerable. Cindy has a lot of ongoing respiratory problems. I honestly think I'm pretty healthy and would survive if I do catch anything. But Connie's health is not good and Cindy's is not either, and we both have a lot of other people in our lives that could be affected if we got infected and started casting some virus around. Now, we're not going to close the shop. I intend to be down here from 10 to 6 every day, probably longer. But we're not going to open it up for customers to come in. We will do curbside delivery or curbside pickup. I already announced that we're doing free home delivery for anybody in the city of Cleburne. And of course, we'll continue to mail anywhere in the world. I had intended by now to have a video walking through the process of placing an online order. I haven't got that done. I will get that done tomorrow and we'll post it. I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't think anyone does. I don't want to, as one of my sons says, act in panic, but I also don't want to be stupid. I think what we're doing here is valuable. I think that having books available in a time like this is important. Actually, I think having books available is important every day of the week, but that's because I'm in this business. Our store, like any other small business, is going to struggle during this. I'm going to post some things within the next day or two discussing what our needs are, and if you feel like helping, how you can help. But in the meantime, we're intending to be here for the long run. I've said all along, we're planning to build a world-class bookstore right here on the square at historic downtown Cleburne. That was the goal when we moved here. That's the goal now. During this time when we're not having customers in here, Cindy and Connie and I are making additions in here. We're adding new shelving, adding a lot of books. When we get past this crisis, hopefully we're going to be ready to roll. We have a lot of big plans. We've got some other things that I've already announced. I've had to cancel several author signings, but we've made arrangements to do virtual signings. I've got several authors lined up. We will be posting those hopefully starting next week, and I'll try to have one every couple of weeks after that. We've implemented the podcast. I've already talked to you about the podcast. I'd like to have you listen in. Just go do a search for Texas Tales and Trails. The first episode was an interview with Mark and Kim Noriega, a best pair who play here in Cleburne and are just fantastic musicians and fantastic people. Friday week, we will be coming out with episode 2. It's an interview with a young lady out in Stamford, Texas, who's just a remarkable person. This is a woman who's only 39 years old. She owns and operates 2 newspapers out there. She founded and operates a bookstore in Stamford. She founded her own publishing company, and in the last 4 years has published 150 books. She also writes books. Now, while all this was going on, she had cancer in 2008, got it taken care of, had 10 years free, and then last year had a relapse. Didn't slow her down. They've got big announcements. The publishing company's got some major things happening, and that will be announced in Publishers Weekly sometime this month. I didn't mention it, but she's also raised 2 special needs children during this time. And in her spare time has decided to start teaching yoga. Fantastic person. Callie Weber-Smith. We'll have the interview online, 1 o'clock Friday week. have many more. We're trying every 2 weeks to have somebody that we're going to sit and visit with that adds a little color, a little texture to Texas. And if you have suggestions for that character, that person, that author that you would like to know more about, send me a note. Maybe we can get a hold of them. I mean, Texas Tales and Trails, the long trails meet here in Cleburne, and the tales are all true, mostly.